Hello, welcome to the Owatonna Today Show, your community connection. I am your host, Francy Hall, and today we are going to be taking a little trip over to the St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and we're going to be talking with Father Michael Tippett. He is the rector of St. Paul's. He's got a very interesting history. He's originally from Scotland, and there's quite a few interesting stories that we'll want you to stay tuned for. You'll be very interested in. First, we are able to bring you this show and every show because of our sponsors, and we would like to share with you who those great folks are. Our premier sponsors are the City of Owatonna, Express Employment Professionals, and Owatonna Public Utilities. Our primary sponsors are Amy Swain Hearing Centers, Brookdale Owatonna Assisted Living and Memory Care, formerly Sterling House in Clarebridge, Little Theater of Owatonna, and the Owatonna Foundation. Our interlude sponsors are Abraham Consulting Technologies, Bremer Bank, Bredna Bednar Mortgage Office, Glenn Mager and Michael Mager of the Brickmaker Funeral Home and Medford Funeral Home, Carlston, Branstad and Company CPAs, ERA Gillespie Real Estate, Fairview Animal Medical Center, Horizon Eye Care, Clancher & Sons Landscaping and Concrete, Owatonna Business Incubator, Snap Fitness, Steele County Historical Society, Steele County Transitional Housing, the Third Hand Inc. Video Productions, and TPS Insurance. We hope that you will support these sponsors who support this show and support our community in so many ways. Hope that you will stick with us for a very interesting interview with Michael Tippett.
Hi, I'm Jody Voisin with the staff at Fairview Animal Medical Center, your other family doctor. Fairview Animal Medical Center is a proud supporter of the Owatonna Today Show.
Juvenile fire setters cause a lot of problems with young adults and children in our community. To help people and parents or anybody with their juvenile fire setter, we have a program down here that will help you get information to pass on to your juveniles and young adults about fire setting and the common problems with that and the dangers of juvenile fire setting program. This is a public service information from the Owatonna Fire Department.
Hello, I'm David Einhaus with the Owatonna Foundation. Thank you to all of our donors who have helped make Owatonna a better place to live. Will you join us today with a financial gift? Owatonna Foundation is a proud sponsor of the Owatonna Today Show.
Welcome back to the Owatonna Today Show. We are your community connection, and as promised, we are out and about in the community, and we are going to be visiting with Father Michael Tippett. He is the rector at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Leanne and I actually know him very well, and he's got an amazing, interesting life story, and so we've got a few minutes to visit with him and learn more about it. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Yeah.
We just think you've got an amazing story, and you do, and so you are from Scotland.
I am, yeah.
And tell us a little bit, first of all, how long have you been here in the United States?
21 years, I suppose.
And when you first moved here, what was it that you were doing at that time, job-wise? What caused you to move here?
Well, I came to the States to go to divinity school. And my first job out of divinity school was in St. Paul.
And so you stayed there?
I did.
Yes.
I did.
And which divinity school did you attend?
Yale.
Yale Divinity School. Michael has a circuitous route as well, because there's a circle that he's completed with your religious education and becoming a clergy. But let's back up a bit and start in Scotland, and when you were very young. Because that's very interesting also. And so your parents, what were their vocations?
Well, my father was, in his late teens, was in the Air Force, in the Royal Air Force during the war, and came out of the Air Force having flown fighter bombers in Burma against the Japanese. And ended up in Scotland, and he eventually got married to my mother, who was a teacher, and very shortly thereafter they had me. In fact, I think exactly 9 months after that, They had me. So then we were briefly in Scotland, and we moved back down to England, where my father was originally from, and looked after the family business for a while.
What was the family business?
It was a village shop and post office and farm sort of all wrapped up into one.
That's new information. I actually did not know that about you. That's brand new, people. And he then went into a different line of work, which kind of changed your life completely.
It did. I suppose at that point I'm 5 or 6 years old, and I just acquired a younger sister, and I think, I'm pretty sure that my father was not enjoying being a shopkeeper either. So he took the Foreign Office exam, and to his elation, surprise, he passed. And then a year later, we were on the Queen Elizabeth II sailing across the Atlantic to Washington.
I did not know that either, that you sailed here. You didn't fly here, you sailed here on the Queen Elizabeth. Wow.
We did. We took 7 days on the QE2, and I remember having my birthday, and I remember the cake, and I remember being sick.
Oh.
So,
but the cake came before, I mean,
that
wasn't the predominant memory, was not being sick.
That was the sequence: birthday, cake, sick. And my father, I think, was sick the whole way.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, and then you landed here, right? And
we got off in New York and then headed for Washington.
And you were in Washington for how long?
2.5 years, I think, was the posting. So it was right at the moment of the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a very hairy time to be a diplomat, I think.
Yes.
So.
And what was his assignment here in Washington?
I think he was in charge of the mailroom, if my memory serves me correctly. And this is his first assignment out of school, if you like. So they put him in charge of the diplomatic mailroom, which is at that point is a big deal anyway, because most of the communication comes in by telegraph and diplomatic bag. And
so he's in charge of handling that communication and getting it to the right people in a timely manner, which is extremely important when we're talking about,
I suppose so.
Communications during an extremely tense period of time.
Yeah.
And then something else happened, which is what kind of set your life on a whole different course.
My parents then, my parents went from Washington to Prague, but I didn't go to Prague. I went to boarding school, so I'm 8 years old, and my mother delivers me to a Scottish boarding school in the sort of northeastern coast of Scotland.
How on earth was that, as a young 8-year-old, being delivered to the headmaster of this? I'm picturing a big, drafty, old.
Well, drafty, old, not all that big. It's a sort of converted country house literally out in the country in Fife in Scotland. And one minute my mother was there, and the next minute she wasn't. So that was the experience.
Wow. How did you cope with that?
I didn't particularly. I don't remember coping. I remember being miserable.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And you were in boarding school for quite a while.
No, I was in boarding school for the rest of my time at school.
8 years old, and when did you get delivered from that into
I was delivered
adulthood?
From that when from there I went to a bigger school, more like Hogwarts in Edinburgh, a place called Fetty's, and I stopped doing that when I was 18. So I graduated, I suppose. Actually, what happened was I got a minor scholarship to go to Oxford, so I went from there to Oxford with a year in between. I took a year off.
Did you have fun during that year? What did you do during that
year? I did.
I
had a spectacular time. Well, my parents by that time they went from from Washington to Prague, which was also a fascinating time to be in Prague at the height of the Cold War, immediately before the Prague Revolution and the Soviet invasion. And from there they went to Lisbon and then to Lima in Peru. So they'd just been to Peru, and I followed them to Peru, and they'd established all sorts of contacts. So I had a year in Peru.
Is that where you learned Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are pretty fluent in Spanish.
My Spanish is not as good as it used to be. Yeah.
We'll have to fix that. Let's see. We'll figure out ways for you to go speak Spanish in the community.
So I love Peru.
It's a beautiful, I mean, I haven't been there, I've just seen pictures, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
it looks
incredible.
amazing.
So I taught for about half the time to make money, and the other half the time I was goofing off.
Taught English, or what did you teach?
I taught a bit of everything in a half English speaking school. I also taught English as a foreign language to older Spanish students. Yeah.
Then you took a little bit of a turn and you followed in your father's footsteps to some extent, because, well, maybe it wasn't right then. Tell us
Right.
about how you transitioned into becoming, a military person.
Well, before that, I went to Oxford to study theology, and I thought that I was going to discover the meaning of life, I think, and it wasn't there, or at least I couldn't find it. And so I spent 3 years at Oxford running around chasing my tail, having a great time playing rugby and tennis and things, but
And squash,
not,
is that where you also played squash?
I didn't really play squash, well, a little bit.
He's a squash player now, so that's what I...
And that being an academic disaster, which it basically was, I transferred to the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. I ran away and joined the Army.
You did run away to join the...
I did. A lot of my friends were doing that, and then, several of my closest friends were heading off to the Army, so I thought I would go with them.
And that took you on a life adventure. How long were you in the Army?
Almost 14 years.
British, was it British Royal Army? I'm sorry, being an American, I don't have it right, I know.
The British Army.
The British Army. And you were a dragoon?
My regiment was the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards.
I just love that name. Okay, we are going to pick up this story in a minute after a word from our sponsor. Stick with us.
Hi, my name is Dave Efforts with TPS Insurance. We're here to handle all your insurance needs. We are a very proud supporter of the Owatonna Today Show.
I didn't just want another job, I wanted a career, so I expressed myself.
I was new to town and I didn't know where to turn for a job, so I decided to express myself.
I decided to express myself, and they helped find the right career for me.
Express Employment Professionals is in contact with thousands of companies in need of quality employees. Come in now and get the job you deserve.
Express yourself today.
Hi, this is Doug Johnson at the Owatonna Business Incubator, a proud supporter of the Owatonna Today Show. We'd like to welcome you to the incubator. If you're a small business, whether you're existing or a startup, we can help you with office space, manufacturing or warehouse, and free confidential counseling.
Hi, my name is Ryan Gillespie with Bremer Bank Mortgage. By trusting your home loan needs to Bremer Bank, you are guaranteed a personalized, straightforward, and honest experience from application to closing. We look forward to guiding you through your next home purchase or refinance.
Welcome back to our conversation with Father Michael Tippett here at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and we left off speaking about the fact that you were a British Royal Dragoon. Is that right?
I was in the British Army, in the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards.
Scots Dragoons. I will never get this right.
No,
because
probably not.
I am not from there. Okay, but it still sounds lovely, so you could say it as many times as you want.
Okay.
I love it. Now, what did you do? What was your...
Well, it's a cavalry regiment, but the first thing I did was, after I'd been trained, they sent me to train recruits, which was stupid, but that's what they did anyway. I did that for a very short space of time, and then I got sent to Northern Ireland on attachment, and my principal responsibility was to look after a stretch of border country in southwest Fermanagh. I had 25 soldiers, and we were an autonomous unit looking after 12 very, very vulnerable, very nervous policemen.
And this was at the time when there was what year was that?
That was 1970, end of 1976.
So
I
the
think.
IRA was really active
lots
then,
of,
and this
lots
was...
of bangs and flashes.
What was this nervousness for the police about, and what were you there to protect them from?
The poor, well, some people wouldn't call them the poor police. The poor policemen were driving around in soft-skin vehicles, basically, trying to do their job of following up on legal matters and
community policing.
Doing, well, yeah,
Kind of.
insofar as it was possible. And the provisional IRA were much more interested in shooting at them than they were at difficult targets like soldiers. So the police got the brunt of it. They had to live there the whole time, and we were, the soldiers were there for, longest tour would have been about 18 months.
And so 18 months is kind of the stretch of any given tour?
No, it was at that point.
It was. And you've been to a lot of interesting places. What are some of the places and experiences that really stand out for you?
I mean, Northern Ireland captured my imagination at that point because it was very thrilling. The casualty rate was low, but every time you went out, you were on your toes. It was autonomous. There was really nobody looking after my shoulder. We had, 40 authorized and unauthorized border crossings to supervise, with people sneaking backwards and forwards all the time. So we were always several steps behind them.
How old were you at that time?
I was 22.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
22, and you were in charge of...
22, 23.
Wow, that is a big responsibility for a really young person.
It was. It was really engaging, and probably that's why I stayed in the Army as long as I did, except I just love working with soldiers and making teams of soldiers.
What was it that stands out from all of these? So working in Ireland, being in Ireland, and then you've been to some other really interesting places and had some profound experiences.
Well, the bulk of it, actually, about half of it was commanding armor, troops and squadrons of armor in Germany facing up to the Russians and trying to figure out how we were going to respond when the Russians came, because they were definitely coming, We just knew they were coming, and figuring out how we would respond to being vastly outnumbered. And
what's the shelf life of time you would have
that's
to
right.
defend while you're...
That's exactly right. You were trying to create a space of time during which something else could happen to stop whatever was going on,
Buying time.
Buying time, basically. That was the mission, to buy time.
And one thing I know is that you were in Guyana.
I was. That was immediately after I left Northern Ireland the first time. My regiment at that point, the Scots Dragoon Guards, were stationed side by side with another regiment, the Black Watch, and we have lots of close friends in the Black Watch, and my commanding officer was good enough as a reward for my time in Northern Ireland to get me an attachment to the Black Watch, D Company were going out for jungle training in Guyana, and that just happened to be where my parents were at the time. So my commanding officer made that connection, put me on a plane so that I could go and do jungle training and visit my parents. So it was a sort of, it was a bit of a bonanza, but it was fascinating just to go into the jungle, but it was just right at the time when Jim Jones was establishing Jonestown, about 200 miles away from where we were based in Guyana. And as we were arriving, they were bringing the bodies out of Jonestown. So actually we could smell the bodies from where we were camped, and we offered the mortuary detachments and the U.S. Air Force whatever help we could, but we didn't really get involved in any way.
And for the people who are watching at home or on YouTube, if you don't know what the Jonestown Massacre was, just type that in and you'll find out what it was. It was a really significant happening in our lifetime. And so you spent, very exciting, very interesting, very, profound experiences like that. And you loved working with the soldiers, you say, and yet, well, actually, I was going to say, and yet, you then transitioned into becoming clergy. But I have one sneaky question to ask you, because those of us in the know that Michael knows many people who happen to be royal. And at one point, you were actually an escort or something when the Queen was parading.
The Queen was the honorary colonel of our regiment, so she came to visit from time to time. And one of the privileges that I had was commanding her guard of honor when she came to visit.
You may have to meet with and talk with Michael privately to get more information about the other royals who he knows.
I want the Queen story.
She wants the Queen story.
Which Queen story?
The picture. When you were having your picture taken.
I think the one that well, every time she came, we would take pictures.
Yes.
So I have a few pictures. But I think the one you're referring to is the very first time I was in a group picture with the Queen. It was outside Holyrood House in Edinburgh, and it was the 300th anniversary of our regiment, and it was a very big deal. The celebrations went on for 4 or 5 days, and at the end there was this group picture, and we all assembled. And our most hapless, I suppose, young officer, subaltern, was a guy by the name of John Deverell, who went on to great things. And he arrived late for the picture. And as he was arriving late, somebody at the back of the group shouted out, "Off with his head!"
How did the Queen respond to that?
Oh, she turned around and smiled. So he didn't lose his head that day. He was lucky.
What year was that?
That was 1978.
And that's before all the hubbub with Princess Diana was coming about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You knew Princess Diana.
A little bit.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to get anything about that on your own. But I adored her. I cried a lot when she died. Okay, so we've got just a few minutes left, and we need to cover the fact that you are the rector, the priest in charge here at St. Paul's. But
yes.
At some point, you decided to leave the Army.
Right.
And go back to theology, which was a disaster the first time, according to you. So can you give us just a little bit of the...
Sure. Well, when I was... where was I? Can't remember where I was. I think I was posted in Scotland, and a friend of mine who was doing some variety of uniformed espionage in Berlin invited me to the christening of his first child, and that was another 5 or 6 day party. And there were lots of people from all over the world there, and they put all the single people in a cottage and waited for it to explode, basically. and that's where I met my wife, and she was American. She was special assistant to the ambassador in Berlin, the U.S. ambassador. And about 2 years later, a little bit less than 2 years later, we decided that we were going to give up what we were doing collectively and figure out what we were supposed to be doing. And the way we were going to do that was to go to divinity school. So we looked in a number of places and ended up applying to Yale, and we both went to Yale together. But at that point, we didn't know what we were going to do next. We sold what we had and, like the Bible says, and went off to divinity school to try and find out.
Amazing. And you've been here ever since.
Yes, I was captured by the Episcopal Church about 2 years after that.
And remind us, how long have you been an Episcopal priest?
21 years.
21 years. And we've been blessed to have you here at St. Paul's. Because I'll tell you, both I and Leanne attend church here, and we are blessed to do that because we have Father Michael as our priest in charge.
I think there are other reasons, but yeah.
There's many reasons.
I'm blessed too.
There are many reasons, but you are a blessing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you've been here for, is it 11 years now or more?
No, it's 14 or 15 years at this point. No, what are we talking about? 13 years. Is that right? 13 years.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I thought you might, but...
It was supposed to be a couple of weeks.
Oh,
well, it was supposed to be 6 months, and then I got stuck. Yeah. No, I didn't get stuck.
You loved it here so much that you stayed.
That's what happened.
And we're going to have to stay with that being the story because we are out of time, as often happens when we're talking to very interesting people. Thank you so much for joining us. Stick with us for a word from our sponsors.
Hi, Warren Abraham, Abraham Consulting Technologies, your one-stop technology shop. We support the Owatonna Today Show.
Owatonna Public Utilities, real people, real reliable, real progress. Making life a little easier day after day, taking pride in our community, listening to what you say, a voice you can talk to. We're growing with you. In mind in everything we do. Owatonna Public Utilities.
Welcome back to the Owatonna Today Show. We hope that you enjoyed our interview with Michael Tippett and learned some really interesting new tidbits about someone that's here in town. We are your community connection, and once again, we've got a lot of events coming up, so let's explain those to you. The Owatonna Arts Center, they are having their brand new exhibition starting June 7th, Paintings by artist Paul Wallach Roth, and that goes through June 28th. Steele County Historical Society is welcoming Bob Showers for a presentation on Thursday, June 11th at 7 p.m. He has written a book called The Twins at the Met, and it's about the Minnesota Twins. Owatonna Public Utilities has refurbished their Owatonna Public Utilities building, and they've taken some of the old stuff and made it new. So you'll want to go to their open house Thursday, June 18th. They have guided tours every half hour and every hour starting at 9:30 and ending at 9:30 a.m. and ending at 7 p.m. The Steele County Historical Society is having its first open house to talk to you about and show you about the benefits of membership, and that is going to take place on June 18th from 4 to 7 p.m. You'll be able to tour the History Center and the Village of Yesteryear, so stay tuned for that. The 37th Annual Young Life Golf Tournament is on June 20th. For more information and to participate, Call the Young Life office at 451-9401. Breakfast on the Farm. That sounds so much fun. June 20th from 8 a.m. until noon, rain or shine, Clover Glen Farms in Claremont. And to learn more information, there is not. So anyway, Breakfast at the Farm, it's provided by the Steele County American Dairy Association. And we want you to know that we always welcome your input about the shows that we're going to be featuring. And coming up, join us next week. Some of our guests include New Business, The Mindful Fork, and the Exchange Club Center for Family Unity fundraiser, and the Relay for Life update. So please rejoin us then. Thank you.